it's me, Mr. TDF. If you're new here, welcome. If you're an established viewer, and welcome back. Year's winding down, so let's have a little bit of a creative outburst of video in terms of Resident Evil. Ah yes, Resident Evil. It's about to celebrate its big 3-0, big 30th anniversary next year in 2026. So as 2025 comes to a close, I want to give Capcom, the company, some advice as a big fan of Resident Evil. I don't take that lightly. As a fan, I mean, well, I like Resident Evil because it's unique. Sure, it's a horror franchise, but it's also one that's full of fun action. Cool characters that strike the right chord, goofy and entertaining, and relatable at times. All the while, being a franchise full of, quite frankly, cool monsters, BOWs, things that are more than just zombies, that are like, cool sci-fi creatures that definitely wear their inspiration on their sleeve when it comes to horror inspirations. So with all that in mind, right, to you, Capcom and the fans watching, I want to give you this proposal. Look, there's a big divide in just the way Capcom sees the franchise and trying to appeal to new fans in the remakes, right? Whether it's people getting into YouTube horror, or just trying to make everything more homogenized with the franchise, alright, whatever, follow the money, sure. But, Resident Evil's always been weird and unique. It's always been inherently goofy, as it is serious and scary. It's both. Just as it's both action and horror, because you can't have action without horror, and vice versa. They blend into each other very well, right? Think of how many horror movies you watch where it ends in action, despite being pretty tense throughout the whole thing, you know what I mean? They're complementary to each other, horror and action. With that in mind, whether it's remakes or originals, I think Resident Evil, a good way to celebrate its 30th anniversary, its 31st or 32nd, would be to celebrate its whole history. But I think a good way to celebrate the franchise outside of video games and merchandise would be a toy line. Yeah. An actual collectible line, right? A figure maybe 6 to 7 inch scale, and I'm going to explain why in a moment, with some articulation and some cool features, right? Hitting that balance between a collectible and still something you can just play with, because we're all kids at heart. And with that in mind, I think to celebrate Resident Evil's decade-long experience and making a beautiful experience for people and fans of loving pop culture, what better way to celebrate that than something tangible, action figures. So I'm going to propose to you, Capcom and the fans, 5 waves of 3 figures each of what I would call the BOW Legacy, Bioweapon Legacy, with the Resident Evil name attached to it, of course. Emphasis on celebrating Resident Evil through its many monsters from its entire history, including original designs from the original games, way before the remakes. Because there's something inherently cool about those original designs. And the big disclaimer that there's going to be no zombies, or at least no normal zombies in this Toyline. You can do that anywhere else. But an emphasis on Resident Evil because it's a franchise about bioweapons first and foremost. Weird things that strike a balance between cool and frightening and just something you want to blow up at the time, right? A cool fight. So with that in mind, I've done Resident Evil videos before on the channel. Check them out if you like this one. Let's get into it. But the Toyline, Wave 1 of Bioweapon Legacy, right? First figure, the Hunters. From the first Resident Evil original. Using that Hunter's sculpt, taking inspiration from the original version, and some cues from the 2002 remake. I think you can find a good blend there. And the key of the Hunter is that that's one you can reissue down the line, right? For this first wave, just about famous Resident Evil monsters that make you think of the franchise, Hunters. Did a video on them before, I love them. They're weird, they scratch that itch between Jurassic Park and Dino Crisis from Resident Evil. Look at them, right? Hunter, big beefy frog lizard thing. You can do recolors, you can do different colorations, right? There's like green and brown ones in the original, depending on, looking at the remake, or the lighting. Whatever you want, make a battle control, I don't care. But get that first Hunter sculpt out of the way. And then you can do a reissue down the line of like the sweepers from Veronica, which are purple poisonous hunters. There you go, right? You can reuse the sculpt. Second figure in this line, the Evolved Liquor. Now, from Resident Evil 2. I want to do the Evolved Liquor because it's part of the original game. I think that Resistance Online game had the Evolved Liquor, so anyway. Resident Evil 2 Classic, Evolved Liquor's second entry in this Toyline, Wave 1. Because what I mean, like, the liquors are something you can find merchandise, so probably because they're in all like the almost all the live action movies have a liquor in some form, and the CG movies have liquors in two of them, so they're pretty popular Resident Evil monster. You gotta have them there. But do a figure they evolved them, make it a little different, and of course you can do a retool of the classic design or that's RE5 version, right? That variant of the liquor. So you have different ways you can approach it, but I think doing the evolved liquor with some nice coloration, have that kind of pop from the 90s era, could be a cool figure, a nice compliment to the hunter while still being different enough, right? It's a liquor, it's gonna lick you, so there you go. And it can kind of be your gateway into having some kind of zombie monster. This Toyline. Alright, and next I have this. My next pick for this Toyline is going to be the Reaper from Resident Evil 5. Now, why the Reaper? Well, I mean, come on, look at it. Big bug thing that scratches that bug itch, having it different from the Hunter and the Licker. They kind of do this like mantis thing. There are these horrible cockroach creatures that are on a ship. Then they got infected with Ouroboros, and you know they're an infestation, they're an accident, or be a weapon. I think they could be a nice complement to the Hunter and Licker. I mean, it's a bug enemy, and they're pretty terrifying in Resident Evil 5. I think that's kind of theme having Wave 1 of Bioweapon Legacy. Hunter, Evolved Licker, the Reaper, they can all one-shot you, pretty much. And they're terrifying when they get close to you, so that's kind of the idea. These monsters fitting different archetype, different biology design, but they can usually one-shot you, depending on difficulty. And they're just nasty to fight up against. And of course, again, articulation and sculpt could be really easy to pull off the Hunters, and they got just almost a human anatomy, or they're monstrous. Same with the Lickers. And then the Reapers, you can maybe blow them apart too, that can be a feature. Because again, even though these are more like collectibles in the $20–$25 range, there's still some fun to be had with some kind of accessories. And I think the Reapers could pull that off. Some kind of like you put the bulbs on them and they take damage, something like that. They're an insect, you make them very articulate. Plus Wave 1, kind of an emphasis on one-shot monsters that can really kill you. As for Wave 2, we're gonna get a bit more humanoid. The first entry in Wave 2, Bandersnatcher from Code Veronica. I mean, look at it, right? It's kind of like a tyrant, a dismantled tyrant variant that became its own product line in Code Veronica in terms of T-Virus creations. And of course, you can have an alternate hand or just make its base, one arm stretchy. Or maybe an accessory that you can take off the hand and make the arm longer to simulate its attack formation, when it's like doing that, tyrant attack. That's the kind of idea I had in mind for the Bandersnatch figure. Maybe a little bit more limited in articulation, but the emphasis would be in, it has one freaky arm. So that's the Bandersnatcher. Number 2 is going to be this. I'm gonna pick the Ivy from Resident Evil 2, the Ivy plant, based off of Plant 43. I think the Ivy would be cool. I remember I've seen pictures and there's some videos people done on the Toy Biz version from the 90s Toyline. Go with that, make it cool. Again, maybe some bendable pieces with the vines, maybe, something to simulate its attacks, maybe an acid attack, go a little creative with interpretation of the Ivy, but there's some really fun things you could have with it. It's a plant monster. It's going to stand out in this toy line of collectibles. That's why I'm putting Ivy or Plant 43 in this line. And the number 3rd spot, forgive my pronunciation, probably edit that in post. It's the Replinskyaka, whatever you call it. But it's kind of the evolution of the, my brain, the name. An evolution that already made it from Resident Evil 4, freaky, more humanoid creature. You gotta take up particular parts of it by using a thermal scope or whatever, really aiming down your sights. But this creature is a humanoid freak show from Resident Evil 6. And I always loved Resident Evil 6's enemy design and variety. I think Resident Evil 6 is the best variety of enemies to fight on the spot in the whole franchise, only because it takes inspiration from decades of experience at that point Resident Evil. Resident Evil 6 was a big celebration of all things Resident Evil when it comes to callbacks, characters returning, music, and of course the enemies, like C-Virus being an interesting avenue that have callbacks and homages to all past enemies such as giant snakes, sharks, the Plaga, Crimson Head zombies, you name it. But the creature that really stuck out to me in terms of an action figure capabilities would be, well, this guy. He's like a more of a Frankenstein approach to what you saw with the Iron Maidens in Resident Evil 4. You know, you can take off pieces of them and they get really tricky to kill if you don't know what you're doing. But of course, like I said, this guy is more of a Frankenstein monster. He was another enemy that could one-shot you in Resident Evil 6, but this action play feature be taking parts of him off. Again, Frankenstein creature. Parts of his body crawl off, get blasted off, and come after you. Play. You know, a separate hand can attack you and become its own creature, so that's the idea. A cool play feature, something that looks a bit just like a disturbing humanoid thing, but action feature in the toy. A lot of fun can be had of posing and, you know, figure photography and posing with other monsters in the series. Have some fun with it, because I know, you know, believe me, if I could make this Toyline really happen, I believe it should. Make them fight each other, right? And I think this guy would be a nice compliment to the Planet IV and the banner statue as a more of a humanoid, disfigured creature in the second Toyline of Bioweapon Legacy. That's Toyline number 2. For Wave 3 of this Toyline, it's going to be more emphasis on very horrible bodily mutations that are very violent. First up in this wave, another name I'm going to butcher, but it's from Revelations 1. That's the Scarbine Delorgine. I think that's how you say it. I'm sorry, I'm not good with my Italian, but I do like Italian wine. But this guy is another humanoid creature, but again, underwater theme. For emphasis on the T-Abyss virus from Revelations 1. We got this guy. He's a shark on legs. If you like Neptune from Resident Evil 1, then check out this guy in Revelations 1. He's a shark with his own, you know, DNA making an organic shield and organic, like, jousting sword kind of weapon. Freaky guy. I remember the laboratory parts of Revelations 1 were very intense and quite difficult if you weren't prepared. But a lot of cool fights with Jill and Chris reuniting and going to take down Lansdale and, you know, FDC and the whole plot of Revelations 1. But these guys are a nice treat because that game had a lot of cool variety, like Resident Evil 6. But I think this Scarbine Delorgine, again, sorry for the pronunciation, this shark creature on 2 legs with weapons is weird and he's hardly ever talked about in the fandom. I never know if new fans know what this kind of creature is, but he's cool. And it would lend itself well to an action figure format. So there you go, that's the first guy in Wave 3. Building off this idea with another Resident Evil 6 creature, that's the Ubisto. Ubistvo, I don't know how you say it. Again, sorry, as this series went on, I got worse at saying the creature names, you know. But this guy, Ubisto, he's an evolution of the archetype of, you know, Dr. Salazar being the chainsaw guy from Resident Evil 4, but I thought, why not spice it up? I thought about doing the fat guy from Revelations 1, or the guy who says balls a lot in Revelations 2, or of course, you know, the Resident Evil 5 versions, but I think the version RE6 is very grotesque, and it's an organic chainsaw. Like, yeah, Revelations 1, you had the fat guy with organic chainsaw, but this guy is like, you see the bones, like, breaking out. It's organic, bones making a chainsaw. Disgusting, terrifying, and it's quite difficult to fight in the campaign. So, yeah, this guy, I think it'd be a nice compliment to the shark guy in this wave, and, you know, organic creatures making organic weapons. It's weird and something just very Resident Evil. So, yeah, there you go. There's your token chainsaw guy for this Bioweapon Legacy Toyline. Yes. And to round out Wave 3, we have a bigger figure. I think at this point, maybe you could get a little bigger with the scaling, right? That's gonna be the original classic version of U3. I mean, look at him, right? Handsome Squidward on steroids. Ugh. I'm picking the original because it's just much more terrifying than whatever we got in the remake. A remake of Separate Ways, right? The original U3, much more terrifying. Just something about him. Just, he's a little more human looking, and like you can really notice the different arms that are humans sticking out of him. He just feels somehow more of a gross insect than his remake counterpart. And of course, you got and of course, he got some cool play features with the Plaga parasite out of his back. Again, he might be a bit bigger scale in this line, but I think you can make it work. You know, if you have to scale him down a little bit, sure, just make sure his actual features are cool, and the good articulation of his figure. He's, a tentacle arm, claws, the Plaga, different limbs, just terrifying. And I feel like there's a lot you could do with him. So there you go. This wave, you got two creatures I can't really pronounce, then U3, classic U3, there you go. Because again, this Bioweapon Legacy, Toyline, Capcom, and fans, you should showcase the vast history of Resident Evil monsters that really stand out, even if they are, one-off characters in a particular game, or even a mini-boss character. It's a lot of fun to be had. And again, if all these figures get to be collected together, whether it's, like any figure you have in your collection, it's going to look really nice. And I think I need to preface a lot of these figures could come with their own, okay, the tagline is Bioweapon Legacy for the packaging, here's a mock-up. But the subtitle will be the exact, font, the exact logo from whatever game they're from, and they can come with, a collectible card with a little bio on them, something like that. That could be really cool. Alright, first three waves out of the way. Here's wave number 4. Now this is going to be more of a boss character wave, a little bigger in scale. First up, Mutated Jack Baker from Resident Evil 7's Zoe DLC, the one where you play as mountain monsters and you go hillbilly fighting evil in the forest in the bayou. There you go. So I think that the Mutated Jack Baker is because again, in 7, Jack was already the archetype, the token chainsaw guy for that game. But I think his mutant form, he's like other mutant form, the one you get in this DLC, is very underrated. And of course, he's a bit more human-sized. And he's like a bogman, right? Swamp guy looking thing. And you got some cool accessories with him. You could even give him his chainsaw, I don't know, anything. Just make him really all a well-rounded figure. I don't know, I feel like that part of 7's DLC helps scratch the itch for Resident Evil being fun and just bombastic. I mean, you're a hillbilly pile driving your brother. There you go. And you get to use the Nintendo Power Glove to punch Jack Baker. It's beautiful. Good stuff. So, Mutant Jack Baker is the first guy in Wave 4. Second up is our boy Nemesis, classic Nemesis. Because, look at Nemesis. He's beautiful, original. Give him his bazooka, give him a tentacle arm, give him some other accessories, why not? I think maybe Nemesis's feature could be to really take off a few pieces of his outfit and make him mutant when he has that clock tower fight against Jill. Put some flame effects on him, whatever you want, acid effects, really go crazy. I think Nemesis in his more humanoid form from the original would be great. Accessory galore. I thought about doing the original final boss version of Nemesis, but I think to keep it simple, just do his normal humanoid form with additional accessories for his more battle damage variant. And of course the bazooka. There you go. Give him his escape, give him a dead tyrant as an accessory, right? Maybe make a battle scene with him, something like that. Or maybe give him, some other smaller BOW he can punch as part of his set. So there you go. Our good boy Nimi, he should be there, right there. There you go. Third character in this line could be, Birkin. G3 version of Birkin. There you go. I always liked the G3 form. I felt like he had a good frame for intimidation, multiple arms, a cool color scheme. It just looks ferocious and disturbing all around the body whole. I think having G3 Birkin could be a nice way to help round out this line of figures for at least more of a mutant, boss character. Having a mutant G3 Birkin just to be cool. I always feel like fighting Birkin is always fun. And in the original, I felt like it was really intense just having him burst out. And of course, it mutates through his G4 form. Maybe you could pull it off, the mutation. I know, again, Toy Biz did that back in the day, but since this is more of an emphasis on articulation of some kind of play feature, I don't know, maybe just keep him as G3 with some other accessories. Maybe a mini G version, spawn out or something like that. But I think, G3, Ruben Birkin could help round out Wave 4, make it really interesting for bioweapon legacy. Alright, and now we're at the end. The end. Wave 5. Of course, you can keep going if the waves, but let's leave it at this. Alright, Wave 5. First, we have Queen Leech, Resident Evil. Now, again, this could be a bit of a bigger scale figure, but I think they could pull it off. Maybe some kind of bendable parts or accessories, like mini leeches. You know, they could really go crazy with that, make an emphasis on this kind of virus from that game stand out. But for Wave 5, the theme would be more so the founders of Umbrella, so you probably know where this is going. Different ways you could take it, this is my interpretation. So first is the Queen Leech. Second, Nosferatu from Code Veronica. I'm saying Nosferatu because I figured I could be, he's not really talked about, but he was a memorable boss fight in that game, and a difficult one. He never picked up the sniper rifle. Like in that one, you could use a knife to finish him off if you really plan carefully. Or cool, right? Nosferatu, he's the original Ashford. So, you know, if the Queen Leech was the remnants of Marcus's memories as a founder, then you have Ashford being locked in a cellar in the Umbrella Antarctica base. And you see he's got the Code Veronica virus, T Veronica virus, he has this weird like bug, lizard, hybrid firepower thing. And he kind of has a heart in his chest like a tyrant. But there you go. Nosferatu, I felt like if you really have something cool with the little like, I don't know what you call them, spiky arm things, appendages from his back. And, you know, he's just an interesting character. Again, yeah, he's a bit more humanoid, alright, you know, more of a normal zombie design, the mutation part. But he's a founder of Umbrella, and I felt like if there's one guy who could really highlight Code Veronica, besides Alexia, I thought about putting Alexia in this line, you know, you could do her, but maybe save it for later, but original founders, well, you have, if you're going to do with the Queen Leech of Marcus, or whatever, you gotta do Ashford Nosferatu, right? Who's flickering the lights, huh? Who's flickering the lights? And last for Wave 5, you probably know, no, it's not Spencer, but it's the guy who killed Spencer. Big Daddy Albert Wesker's Ouroboros form from Resident Evil 5. Only because, yeah, I know there's some very expensive, like 1/8 of the fandom can afford Albert Wesker figures from 5 or 1. But, yeah, I thought about doing the Code Veronica version, but no. Or the Umbrella Chronicles, no. We gotta go big. Big Daddy Albert Wesker, you know, Chris. But we're not do his Ouroboros form. His kind of pseudo-tyrant form. I always notice in the franchise that there's never an explicit tyrant appearance. There's always some kind of homage. That's what Wesker was in Resident Evil 5. You know, he's his heart sticking out his chest. One arm's bigger than the other, but it's Ouroboros. A lot of fun to be had. Articulation, how they approach the figure. And of course, all the shrapnel from the stealth bomber that's part of his big attacking weapon. You can have like other Ouroboros tendrils forming like the shield he has during his boss fight whenever he goes into the ground to burrow. Or, you know, add some lava effects to the figure, or add a bazooka you could add that simulate him getting blown to pieces, huh? Something like that. But for Albert Wesker, you know, give him a samurai edge as an accessory for his free hand. But you can modify his mutant hand with accessories, and of course put on the sunglasses. I know he doesn't have the sunglasses in this form, but it's an action figure. You know, let fans go wild posing, and, you know, fans are gonna give them some accessories, have some fun with photography, and to promote your franchise and to promote your own figure. So those are the 5 ways I propose for Capcom and the fans. Other ideas down the line is, you know, you could do Mr. X, you could do Ustanak, you could do Alexia, you could do any of the guys from Revelations 2 or anybody from Resident Evil 8. Or even another creature, you could do Neptune, I guess, from 1, or anybody else. Sky's the limit for the weird mutations from Resident Evil, or you could even do a 2-pack of something, but... And of course, retools, you really need to reciprocate costs, and maybe some limited editions at Comic-Con or online or something to that nature, but there you go, right? Resident Evil is about to turn 30, and of course, there's the whole debate between remakes and originals and just preservation, and of course, you have voice actors and all kinds of parts of Resident Evil, but, you know, like, you see in my hand this Star Wars badge. There's not really a whole lot of Resident Evil merch that's at least affordable, or accessible, without having to throw out some serious cash. But I think a decent actual toy line, because there's not really any toys out there besides statues or like those 1/6 big models or whatever, but like, you know, you don't need the protagonist toys, you can do that somewhere else, but like the monsters, the bioweapons that make Resident Evil what it is beyond zombies and the viruses, like just the actual big monsters and bosses and whatever you want to call them. I think that's a cool avenue for you, Capcom, you, Mr. Capcom CEO. Listen, you know, some ideas from a fan, me, Mr. TDF on YouTube. And if any of your fans see this and you have any ideas, let me know and maybe share my video around. Just an idea for me to help celebrate this action horror franchise I really love. Because again, the monsters are cool and it's something for everybody if you really narrow it down and celebrate what makes Resident Evil such a long-standing part of pop culture. I'm Mr. TDF. Like and subscribe, share my video, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below, let me hear those thoughts, and you know, maybe hopefully Capcom can see this, so that at least, you know, they can maybe make a cool collectible line. Oh, a guy can dream. Think of it as a mix between NECA or something like, you know, Mattel or Hasbro, or just kind of a mix of those, drawing inspiration, something that has a good amount of articulation, good sculpt and paint, but you can still play with it, right? I mean, come on. I'm showing that NECA Predator laser one, the remake of the Kinner toy line. I have the old Kinner ones over there too, but this is a cool collectible. I'm showing it because there's some footage. I have the original NECA Lost Tribe from Predator 2. What really helped get me into the Predator franchise when I was a little younger was, well, figures. Whether it was the Kinner toy line from the 90s or the NECA Predator 2 toy line, the Lost Tribe. I have all those Predators, including some reissues, except the only one I'm missing is the Boar Predator, the brother of the Stalker of that toy line. I still need to get the Boar Predator. I always wanted to get him, I just haven't found him yet. For a decent price, at least. That isn't too pricey. But regardless, Predator 2, one of my favorite films. I got into that whole Predator universe, and I'm glad the franchise is going strong to this day. But that boils down to my love of action figures, and I'm happy that NECA at least gave me that back in the day. So I think Resident Evil can get more fans, people into it by having a collectible toy line made. Because look at Resident Evil, like barely any actual merch. I feel like I have an umbrella mug, but you know, I have a Stars badge from Resident Evil, that's about it. But check out my other Resident Evil videos, I'll see you in the next one. Until then, keep smoking those green herbs and drinking. I'll see you in the next one. I have this.